Right, I'm recording again. We'll see if this happens a second time. This is very, very interesting because I just did a video calling out all the people from behind the legal veil, and this is the first time it's ever happened to me. But the movie maker shut down on me unexpectedly, had a problem right at the end of the video. Very interesting. Anyway, I'll try to do this video again, and we'll see if it does it again right at the end of the video. I just did a video and I was calling out people like the man behind the veil, or behind the person of Donald Trump, okay, the United States President. I'm calling him out under natural law. I'm calling out basically everybody that sits behind that veil, all governments, all large corporations. If you're the man sitting behind that veil, I'm just about to tell you how you're violating natural law. Okay, so I'm calling you out. I'm asking the Supreme Judge to oversee this, the Supreme Judge of the world, and to rectify the wrongs that are being done at the minute. Okay, I'm also giving notice to these people so they can rectify their wrongs. Okay, I'm asking them to come forward with all their deceits, and I'm going to tell them why they should. Okay, so I want everything clarified for the general public, for the man. And I want all, what's really brought this about is all this nonsense with this virus at the minute. Okay, so and basically the destruction of the world economy, which inevitably was going to collapse, but it's in my opinion, a predicted, not predicted, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just it's a blah, 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 blah. It's a scheduled thing. I don't know what the word I'm looking for. It's an intended thing to do. Okay, extract the value, change the currency, and away we go again. Okay, with more controls and more power, and further away from nature. Okay, so and the virus is of course the cover for all of that happening. Let's begin. Okay, so straight away, all those men and women that I've just talked about that are acting behind the veil of the legal system, or whatever system you want to call it, the fictional system, okay, that operates in this world now, you're all put on notice, because I believe you're violating natural law. Okay, so let's get to the crux of the matter. If you're a real man, the first thing I want to say is that real men speak, and I'll tell you right now, I am speaking, and what I've just said is all in natural, my native, natural, individual language. That's right, everybody speaks an individual language. Okay, mine just happens to coincide quite a lot with English. Okay, and for the rest of this video, I'm just going to be talking about people speaking in the English language. Okay, just to keep it simple enough that people can understand. Okay, but this goes for all different languages. Okay, so I speak my native tongue of English, and it's my own natural common language. It's an individual language. Other men speak the same similar language, very, very similar, 99.99% similar, but it's never exactly the same, because we always have a slightly different interpretation of certain things, or different pronunciations that may, everything's just slightly, there are slight little differences here and there. Okay, with that being said, every man speaks a different language. Okay, now I'm going to get to this will actually be quicker than the last video, hopefully. So what we're saying is, how does a man interact with this system? How does he get fooled into acting as a system? Well, what actually happens is the system generates a birth certificate. When you part from your mother, okay, a birth certificate is generated. Okay, it doesn't matter how the birth certificate is generated, it is just generated, and then that is kept under lock and key in some county office somewhere where you're never going to see it. You get a certified copy. You don't get a counter birth certificate, something that's part of the original birth certificate. You don't get that can be matched up with the original. You get a copy, a certified copy of the original. They have to keep the original because otherwise they would lose jurisdiction over it if they gave that thing away. Okay, so you end up believing that you are this fictional person that's the name on the birth certificate. Why do you end up believing that? Because you can read gobbledygook. A real man can read gobbledygook. He has in his what's the word I'm looking for? He has. Let's take an example. I'm all upset about losing that last video. This is why I can't get my train of thought. I'm wound up about it. So, the real man can talk gobbledygook. What am I talking about? If I'd sent a text message to my mate and it just said something simple like the letter C and then the letter U and then it just said later, everybody can understand that. See you later. Okay? That means see you later. I will see you later. That's what that means. I can understand it and he can understand it. So we can understand gobbledygook. There's the proof. All these text messages that people send each other with abbreviations and numbers instead, the number 2 instead of the word 2, all these kind of things that are in there. We can understand gobbledygook. We can understand made-up language. We can interpret made-up language. Okay. So this is the problem the system has, is it's got a made-up language and it looks very much like English. So we can interpret that. Oh dear, well, they have to separate their language from our language. So in order to do that, they had to invent prescriptive English. They had to come along and write, stuff like the Oxford English Dictionary in order to separate their language from ours. So we had to have the Oxford English Dictionary, which is another man's invention. It's not natural at all. What I'm speaking right now is natural, but what's written down in the Oxford English Dictionary, although it can be drawn from the natural language, it's not natural. The actual thing itself is not natural. It's made by other men. Okay, that book is made by other men. Okay, so prescriptive English is something that's there that's been decided by other men. It's not natural. It's what somebody else thinks. Okay, and it's not God that's thinking it. So they have to have these two different languages. Well, the problem is they give you English, and they teach you English at school to a very low standard, I must say now. And then they expect you to know the difference between that and the fact that you already speak gobbledygook while you're growing up. So they expect you to know the difference between that and legal. They don't give you a chance to know the difference because they don't teach you legal. They don't disclose what legal is, what legal language is. There's one of the first problems. Okay. Now we get to the fact that they would say, well, we never give correspondence to the real man. We're not talking to the real man. We're talking to a legal fiction. We can talk however we want, and that's fair enough. But herein lies the problem. It inevitably happens that the correspondence that they're sending to their person ends up in the possession of the real man. Now, the real man, he has a domain. He has his own jurisdiction, and that is his home, his land, whatever he is in possession of. That's his claim under God. The simple fact of being in that possession of those things, those material things, even the mailbox that's out there now, that they would say is U.S. postal jurisdiction, is not. It's my jurisdiction because it's physical. It's a physical mailbox. Okay? They cannot have any jurisdiction. A fiction cannot have jurisdiction over anything physical. Okay? So that mailbox out there is my jurisdiction. Okay? So when a letter comes with gobbledygook written on the front of it, my name, written in some gobbledygook language, I can only do one thing. I can only assume it's for me. It's come into my jurisdiction. Sometimes it's handed to me directly by the mail carrier. So I know it's intended for me because I'm not a mail person to hand it off to the fictitious person. So I know it's coming directly to me. It's written in my language. I've got nothing, I can't do anything other than think that that is for me. I can only interpret that as being to me. Okay? What they'll say is they'll say, no, it's addressed to the fictional address and to the fictional person, because you have a driving license or a passport or something else that's fictional there. I don't have anything that's fictional here. I have a real material driving license and passport that's here in my jurisdiction right now. It's not in their jurisdiction. If it were, it would be with them. Okay, so those two things, for instance, are not in their jurisdiction anymore. Okay, if it's coming, if the correspondence from if the documents or letters or whatever they're saying, and this is the problem. What they do is they send this stuff written in gobbledygook that I can read, and that attached to that is some kind of threat, some kind of consequences, negative impact on me and my well-being. There's some kind of negative consequences if I do not comply with their demands. Okay, whether they're truthful demands or not. If somebody comes at you with a knife, you know there's going to be problems if you don't do something. Or, you know what I mean? I mean, if someone comes at you with a knife and says, "Get out of my way," you've got one or two options: die or get out of the way. Okay, so this is the problem. When they send something, or they send another man or a woman representing a person to do the dirty work, this is the problem. When they've been deceived into this system, when something's been added, something's come into your jurisdiction, my house, my rules. You need to be talking in my language. It's the respectful thing to do. It's the thing to do under natural law, is to respect somebody else's jurisdiction and speak to them in their tongue. Now, if you can't speak to them in their tongue, you should at least be saying, this is the language I'm speaking, and this is how to interpret it. I'm assuming that this is what you're speaking, and if it's not, we need to come to some kind of agreement about what language I'm speaking in order for them to give me a correct interpretation of their language. So if they're coming to me with a threat, and it's, if it's in my language, in my jurisdiction, they've broken natural law. It's been broken. Especially when that mail comes straight to my hand. They have broken natural law. It's happened to me on several occasions where mail's been handed to me straight to my hand. I can assume nothing more than that's to me. What they should be doing is sending all that mail. There shouldn't even be any mail coming to me. It should all be going to wherever that birth certificate is situated. That's where it should be coming from. Well, going to. That birth certificate generates all those other forms of identity. They could argue that they're different. Either way, it doesn't matter. Whatever they argue, it doesn't matter, because the fact of the matter is something's come to me with my name on it. Okay? It's the same name. The birth certificate name is the same name as the real name in gobbledygook. And the problem is every man speaks gobbledygook. Okay? Some men speak real gobbledygook if you go out in the backwoods somewhere, and some men speak a lot more proper, but it's still gobbledygook to some extent. And that is the problem. When you go into somebody else's jurisdiction, my house, my rules, when you go into somebody else's jurisdiction and you make a demand or anything, and you do anything that could be deceitful, you're breaking natural law. If it's your own jurisdiction, you can do what the hell you like. If it's your own fictional, made-up reality, that's fine. But when you enter that into somebody else's jurisdiction, that's when natural law is broken. I don't know what else to say. I've actually managed to do, the other video was 40-some minutes long. This one's a lot shorter, for sure. 14 minutes, that's great. What else to say about it? That's it in a nutshell, really. When you're acting behind that veil, and you decide to do something that's deceitful, if you're putting that into somebody else's jurisdiction, If you're putting it into the open, into the public, that's a different thing. So if you were to put your, let's say your, what would I say? Let's say you were doing a speech and that was out in the public and it was on a big screen and it was CGI, so it wasn't even a real man that was making the speech, and you did that in the public domain. That would, in my opinion, be fine under natural law. But when there is a physical object like this computer, and I'm talking to you now, and I can see, you can see this is a real man, right? Making the video, okay? Even though you know the video is fiction itself, the image is fictional, you know that there's a real man behind that. And when I go into your jurisdiction, okay, when I make this video and then it's projected into your physical realm, into your own individual jurisdiction on a computer screen, that's material. It's manifested as real. When I come into there and I'm deceiving you, if I were deceiving you, I would be breaking natural law. Okay, I have to, if I'm gonna go into somebody else's jurisdiction, I should sure as hell tell them what language I'm speaking. Okay, if I'm intending to deceive them, which is what the intention is from the system. Okay, because here, and here's another thing. Because if the intention wasn't to deceive, what would happen is when they got a response back from anybody pretending to be the real, to be the fictional person, their first response back should be, hang on a minute, this can't possibly be right. There's been a mistake here somewhere. We have the birth certificate in our possession, locked up in the local health department records. This can't be right. There's been a mistake somewhere here. We need to rectify the mistake, because that's what should happen under natural law. If there's a violation, if there's a mistake that's made, if you go along with the mistake in order to deceive somebody, you're breaking natural law again. I mean, there's nothing more than, when everything's out on the table, okay, there's no natural law being broken, okay, and they think that they're putting everything on the table, but they're not. If they wanted to put everything on the table, we would be getting taught legalese at school. We'd be getting taught the legal language at school at the same rate to balance what we know in real and prescriptive English. And then we'd also get taught what I've just told you, is that men can also speak gobbledygook. That everybody has their own individual language, and that you shouldn't assume that you're speaking exactly the same language as anybody else. But the difference is, when I go into your jurisdiction, I have to be expected to speak your language. I'm on your ground. I'm under your jurisdiction. When I come into your when they come into your jurisdiction, they are now under your rules. Okay, and the rules of natural law say you should speak the same language as the man. Okay, that's my assumption, that anybody that comes talking to me, and if they're not, like if a Chinese man comes down the road and starts trying to talk to me, comes to my house and knocks on the door and comes in, we have or we can't talk to each other, until he explains what language he's talking, and then I can interpret what he's saying. Okay, or unless I tell him what language I'm talking. So there's a double-ended problem there, because the other problem is they send you a thing without checking first that you're not speaking the same language. That's also enough. I didn't really think about that, but what happens if you really are speaking the same language? I don't know. Not that you are, but anyway, I'm digressing. I think I'm going to leave it at that and try and get this one to take. If this one goes, hey, well, I don't know what's going on. Something weird's going on. But anyway, I try and get this video out. It's 3:22 today. The number, 3/22, 2020. So that is a number to remember right there. I'm surprised I haven't done something catastrophic today, but whatever. Yeah. I hope you liked the video. I can't really say any more than that. The simple fact of the matter is, they're coming into your jurisdiction when they know full well that they've got the birth certificate in their custody. The birth certificate creates anything else that's in their jurisdiction, their fictional jurisdiction of the postal service. And when something physical turns up to you and is handed to you or put in a box that is your physical possession, okay, or your physical, or comes onto your physical land in whatever guise, if it comes to you, then they've got a problem, okay? Because the intent for deceit is there. Unless they're telling you exactly what language and giving you a big old thick wad of paper that's got written on there all the meanings and interpretation that you can in your own language interpret what they're saying, okay? But when something comes with a threat attached to it, you know, natural law has been broken if they're not talking your language, so you can sort that thing out. And that's what they do, okay? It's a deceit, and this is aimed at everybody out there that is hiding behind that veil. I hope I got everything that I needed to get into that. No doubt I've missed something out. But anyway, I guess I'll see you on the next video, I guess. Unless they don't like this and they come and knock me on the head. Or they will sort out all this deceit that's going on at the minute. Come clean with all the deceit. That's all I'm asking them to do. Just correct their violation of natural law. They just need to come clean. And, if they're not willing to do that, I'm asking the judge of the world, God, the big man up there in the sky, I'm asking him to sort it out. Because enough's enough, when you do what you're doing with the intent of causing suffering and harm to other men and women, it just is not. It's not acceptable. It's not acceptable when you don't meet the balance of disclosure. Okay, and that's what they're not doing. They like to say everything is disclosed and everything is in plain sight, but the fact of the matter is they're not reaching their side of the balance. Okay, they're not reaching their side. They're not doing enough to clear themselves of wrongdoing in the eyes of natural law. That's my opinion. Anyway, there's nothing really to recap on this now. I think that was the recap that I've just done. Okay. Men can speak gobbledygook. Legal language is gobbledygook. In order for them to, in their own minds, to think that they're clear on natural law of wrongdoing, they've invented prescriptive English and taught that to you, and they've got their legal language. They assume that you're always going to speak that you've been taught. And how do they even know that you've been taught it to a well enough standard? They don't know any of this. At school, the most grammar that I got taught was capital at the start of a sentence, full stop at the end. This is what a noun is, this is what a verb is. Get on with life. That's all I got taught. Not enough to make a distinction between legalese or legal language and English. Just not enough. Okay? When they come into your house with something that's written in legalese that you can read and interpret because you speak gobbledygook, that's everybody's natural language. It's proven with text messages. When they do this, when they come into your jurisdiction, the real man can only exist in a real jurisdiction, okay? A material jurisdiction. Your house is your claim of possession. When they come into your jurisdiction, if they hand you mail to your hand, they've established that. Even if you don't have a physical address, when that, you know, physical. Even if you don't have a physical piece of land, let's say, or a physical house of your own, if that mail comes into the hand of the physical man, one way or another, there's a problem there. Okay. Um, Sorry, spider. I hate to kill spiders, but if my wife saw that, she'd go nuts. Anyway, so I lost my train of thought there now. But when that letter or that document or whatever comes with some kind of coercive, um, intention behind it, to get you to do something, whether it's under duress or however else, through threat, you've got a huge problem because you're entering the man's jurisdiction now. Whether he knows it or not, you're entering the man's jurisdiction. And when you enter the man's jurisdiction, you have to be on his terms. It's his jurisdiction. So you have to speak his language. You have to at least meet him halfway. If you don't know what his language is, you at least have to explain what your language is and that it's not his language, and that there needs to be some interpretation that's occurring there. Anyway, what more can I say? That is the violation of natural law. From this, I would like to see all these deceits in the world come. I want to know the truth behind everything. That's how you get out of your error right now. That's how you correct your wrongdoings. All the people that are behind the veil, that's how you correct your wrongdoings right now. Okay? Anyway, like I said, they'll either come and bang me on the head, or they will, and then they'll be, really up the shitter without a paddle, because of old big man up there is hopefully looking over me. Or they'll sort themselves out and do the right thing. Let's hope it's the latter. Alright, that's all I got to say about this. Alright, bye.